Heya Cryptozens. It's 10 p.m. Pacific time. The date is October 28th, 2022. Welcome back to the Crypto Overnighter. My name is Nikodemus, and I'll be your host as we take a nightly look at the crypto, NFT, and metaverse space and the industry that surrounds it. And keep in mind, nothing in this show should ever be considered financial advice. One lesson learned over the last year: fortune does not necessarily favor the bold. Can you believe that cringy Matt Damon TV spot is a year old? I think there's been a lot of brave people out there who fortune seems to have forgotten. At any rate, here we go. Elon Musk got the keys to Twitter today, and there have been some changes, reportedly. Anecdotally, I can tell you that I tested out the bot situation myself. I even said MetaMask on Twitter. I haven't seen any bots. I've seen other people making that same observation, but I can't substantiate it. It's just anecdotal. So how's Doge taking the news? Well, the premier meme coin has pretty much been on a tear for the last couple of days, going from 6.27 cents each on the 26th to a high of 8.81 cents today. That is a substantial increase, nearly 41%. The question is it going to hold? So it's hard to say. Yesterday, it went to about 8.5 cents each, and then that sparked a huge retracement all the way back to 7.2 cents each. Since then, it's climbed and hit 8.81 cents apiece. So I think there's probably going to be some excitement around Dogecoin for a while, maybe the next 18 to 20 hours or so. That is, unless Musk or somebody else pulls something out to keep people's excitement. I think right now the macro is going to smash Dogecoin back down to where all the other coins are these days. On the subject of Elon's newest impulse buy, we have Binance. Their CEO, CZ Zhao, said the exchange did indeed participate by pledging $500 million to help Elon Musk buy the social media platform. At the time, he said it was a small contribution to the cause. This is a commitment that Binance made back in May of this year, along with 18 other investors, some of which are players in the crypto space. And so today, CZ announced that they did indeed wire the money to Musk as agreed upon. In an emailed statement, he said, quote, "We're excited to be able to help Elon realize a new vision for Twitter. We aim to play a role in bringing social media and Web3 together in order to broaden the use and adoption of crypto and blockchain technology." Now, here's something to consider. Binance is the fourth largest contributor to this takeover. That tells me that crypto is certainly going to figure heavily in Musk's plans for Twitter. And it's reasonable to believe that these companies that invested in Musk's acquisition will have a role to play in those plans. And that looks indeed like it's going to be the case, because Binance announced their plan to work on blockchain and crypto solutions for Twitter. A Binance spokesperson announced that this new team would be focused on how to address bots using on-chain solutions, which would fit. The bots are a big problem for Musk, and it was the bots that almost blew the deal to begin with. Now, this is all pretty nice to see, actually, because it was just last year that there was some beef between Musk and CZ. Musk called Binance out over Dogecoin withdrawal issues, and CZ wasn't having it. Now, Binance was in the news today for some other reasons, this time over serving non-sanctioned Russian nationals. Now, remember, we've been reporting lately different exchanges have cut off Russians as a whole from their platforms. They're doing so to keep compliant with the EU. The 8th round of sanctions banned all crypto transactions with Russian nationals. Now, in the time since that last round of sanctions, Binance is still allowing non-sanctioned Russians to operate on their platform. And by non-sanctioned, what I mean are people who are not individually named to be sanctioned. Just a blanket, all Russian national sanction, for example. Now, according to Chagri Poyraz, they're not running afoul of the law. Poyraz is Binance's newly appointed sanctions executive, Binance's global head of sanctions. And according to Poyraz, these sanctions have been a problem since day one. Apparently, one thing that's been going on is Binance has blocked several territories not under the control of the Ukrainian government. That includes Donetsk and Luhansk. So at issue here is the difference between sanctioned and unsanctioned Russians. Binance has said that they have a zero tolerance policy for accounts that are specifically targeted by sanctions. They point out that they've frozen a number of Russian accounts following sanctioning from different jurisdictions. So the U.S. has provided Binance with a specific list of targeted sanctions. They handed over a list of individuals, firms, and even wallets to be sanctioned. That doesn't seem to be the problem. It's the EU that they're having issues with. Now, Poirez has said that those sanctions need better clarity. And apparently, Binance hasn't been able to establish a dialogue with EU regulators. Quote, "We obviously do follow all EU sanctions, but there is room for improvement when it comes to clarity. We are trying to follow the sanctions as they are. The challenge is not doing what you've been told. The regulation has to be clear." So initially, early rounds of sanctioning saw that crypto payments were capped at €10,000. Since that time, however, early October sanctions saw that prohibition tightened all the way down to zero. Quote, "All crypto asset wallet, account, or custody services, irrespective of the amount of the wallet." So Binance is saying that the European Commission didn't provide any other information about the sanctions. So Binance is continuing to support services for Russians that are not specifically called out in the sanctions. Meanwhile, platforms like Crypto.com and Blockchain.com have exited the space since mid-October. At present, Russia is one of Binance's largest markets. They were in the top 10 as of October of 2019. Now, from sanctions to the Securities Exchange Commission, because I want to talk about Hester Peirce. She's a Trump appointee, nicknamed Crypto Mom for her pro-crypto stance over the years. And she's got some words about NFTs, because the SEC is taking steps. Earlier this month, they opened an investigation into the Bored Ape Yacht Club, not over any accusations of neo-Nazi symbolism or anything like that. No, in this case, the SEC is going after the apes amidst claims of violated security registration laws. Now, was there ever any doubt in your mind that the government was going to come after NFT money? Certainly not. Because when you look at the way the SEC is trying to establish regulatory authority over every bit of crypto not nailed down, and now they've got this suit against the apes, that shows me that they're coming for the digital art market as well. Now, this is important. If the SEC chooses to go after the NFTs, this could have a huge impact as well as lots of questions. For example, is each individual NFT in a 10K collection different, or are all they considered the same for investment purposes? Because I think that if they're each different, and if they're each unique in the eyes of the SEC, it's kind of hard to see how they'd be considered securities. And then, how can you claim that they're all the same when the thing that literally sets them apart, the thing that makes them valuable, is their uniqueness? Well, it seems that Crypto Mom is also taking note, because Commissioner Peirce doesn't think the SEC should be so quick to get rough, especially since there's kind of a dearth of regulatory clarity on NFTs. She said, quote, "I think the SEC has provided very little clarity on NFTs. There's a lot of ambiguity. And in situations where there is this much ambiguity, I think people need to be very careful. This is not the ideal state of regulation." I like her. She sees things kind of like I do, that regulatory clarity and not regulation by enforcement should be the order of the day. She said, quote, "I've been saying this for 2 years. A good government approach is to lay out the law clearly, and then, if people violate it, you bring enforcement actions. You don't use enforcement actions to tell people what the law is. You should at least have a baseline of clarity." And she points out that her agency is doing the exact opposite of the way that they should. She said, quote, "The SEC has taken the position that securities laws need only be enforced for this area, not interpreted or modified." And this seems to be an issue for her because she says it's entirely in the hands of the SEC how they approach the space. She said they have the ability to provide clarity to NFT creators, yet they have not done so. She said, quote, "We could work on some kind of group exemptive order that could say, if you meet these parameters, then you'll be fine under securities laws. We could set out parameters within which people could operate. We could draft some kind of a class of no action letter, which says, if you do these things, we're not likely to recommend a law enforcement action against you. Now, this seems like minimal acceptable level of government guidance, in my opinion. This seems like exactly what they should be doing. Instead, the SEC is standing back and watching, waiting for moments to attack, waiting for the right instance to engage in a little regulation by enforcement. Now, don't get me wrong. She's not saying empirically that bored apes or moonbirds or penguins or punks or whatever. She's not saying that 10K collections are not securities. And they are something new. Look at the apes. They're artwork, but artwork with perks. Not only community and social perks, but literal gifts of money. And I think that's the point she's making, that we haven't looked at digital collectibles closely. But we shouldn't predetermine whether an NFT is a security or not. She reminds us that such a determination would be needed to be made on a case-by-case basis, which is entirely appropriate. So, going from the SEC to the Commodities Future Trading Commission, kind of like co-joined twins, because we can't seem to talk about one without the other one making news. So, here we go. CFTC Commissioner Christy Goldsmith Romero, because she sees clear parallels between now and the markets in 2008. Because even though crypto is still a small part of the U.S. and world economies, it's growing. And it's that growth Romero was speaking to at an International Swaps and Derivatives Association event in New York. She said, quote, "Financial stability risk will increase and could rise to the level of systemic risk if, in the future, there are greater interconnections between the crypto industry and traditional finance players performing critical market functions." And so she sees some similarities between now and certain elements of finance in the buildup to the 2008 meltdown. And she points out the painful truth: crypto has not yet broken free from the traditional finance system, because it was supposed to provide a place of shelter from TradFi's vulnerabilities. She said, quote, "However, this spring, unregulated crypto markets revealed their vulnerabilities to similar financial stability risks as traditional finance, with parallel themes from the 2008 financial crisis." And while she is not yet calling for a rush to regulation, she did say that the CFTC was ready to help. She said, quote, "Congress can address financial stability risks by providing additional authority to the CFTC." Now, Romero does believe that there is risk to financial stability presented by crypto, but believes that the industry just needs clearer guidelines and not necessarily a lot of new rules. She was speaking on CoinDesk's All About Bitcoin when she said that because digital and traditional assets are different, quote, "we have to be a little careful about going to bespoke treatments because we don't know what the consequences of doing so. That means officials should be reviewing methods that already exist in traditional finance, and then examining those regulations to see if they can be applied to crypto." That said, she still wants clarity from Congress. She said it would be helpful in figuring out which agency should be policing that space. She said, quote, "There's a regulatory gap in that there is no one market regulator over Bitcoin or other commodities and digital assets that are not securities." And she's not wrong. The CFTC regulates commodities markets, but futures only, not spot exchanges. The SEC oversees markets, but those are securities markets. Crypto is neither fish nor fowl, nor would I totally expect the CFTC to be regulating crypto futures exchanges. Now, it does make sense to me, but there really is no established agency that's a good and natural fit for crypto's spot market. Now, I think we need a third option. Now, this would be a peer to the SEC and the CFTC for cryptocurrency and related products. Romero revealed an important tidbit of information. She said the CFTC is kind of quietly working at this. They're providing some standards for crypto-related companies where they intersect with the CFTC on derivatives markets. She said that gives them an idea of what to expect when they do end up being regulated. She said if the CFTC was given authority over crypto spot markets, their approach would mirror that of the derivative side of things. In the meantime, she said, quote, "The best thing that can happen is some clarity from Congress. In absence of that, we'll continue to work with the SEC as it relates to swaps." Now, if some lawmakers get their way, Romero might just get what she's looking for. Representative Sean Patrick Maloney, a Republican from North Carolina, has said that the CFTC is taking the right approach. And so, last month, he introduced a bill that closely reflects the CFTC regulatory approach. And that's going to do it for us tonight. I want to thank you, my listeners, because when you stop listening, I will stop talking. We'll see you tomorrow night.